Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. My condolences unto you all and to all the Muslims and to the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Zaman, on the martyrdom of our great 8th Imam, Imam Ali ibn Musa arRedha alayhi salam. I ask all those in attendance at the center to please observe some of our COVID safety precaution rules, to make sure you signed in at the front, to keep physical contact to the bare minimum, to maintain a social distance, and to try and keep your masks on as much as possible. We thank you all for your assistance during these difficult times. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. May we please recite a loud salawat as we welcome Sayyid Muhammad Ali to come up and bless this evening with a few verses from the Holy Quran. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أنفقوا مما رزقناكم من قبل أن يأتي يوم لا بيع فيه ولا خلة ولا شفاعة والكافرون هم الظالمون. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم. لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها والله سميع عليم. الله ولي الذين آمنوا يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور والذين كفروا أولياؤهم الطاغوت يخرجونهم من النور إلى الظلمات أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد.
Can we please recite another salawat for that recitation? Tonight we commemorate the martyrdom anniversary of our 8th Imam, Imam Ali ibn Musa arRedha alayhi salam. He is the lone Imam. No other Imam from the Ahl al-Bayt is buried beside him in Mashhad, and yet millions year in and year out make the pilgrimage to visit him every year. There is a beautiful hadith narrated by Imam al-Ridha which he states, "He who sits in a gathering in which our affairs, meaning the Ahl al-Bayt, he who sits in a gathering in which our affairs are discussed and revived, his heart shall not die on the day of judgment when hearts shall die of fear." And alhamdulillah, that is exactly what we are here to do tonight. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are all granted the visitation of Imam Ali ibn Musa arRedha in this life and granted his intercession in the next. I now ask we recite 3 loud salawat as I welcome Sheikh Mohammed Mehdi to come up for tonight's lecture. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله اللهم لعنهم جميعا ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد اللهم صل على وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين. We are nearing the final day, which is really the end now of Safar. These months of mourning, Muharram and Safar, come to an end, and we begin with the months of Rabi' al-Awwal and Rabi' al-Thani. When we look at 8th Holy Imam, Salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, one cannot but look at the Khalif that ruled at the time, Al-Ma'mun al-Abbasi. Al-Ma'mun al-Abbasi, if you will, when we call them Khulafa, the word Khalif means after. So when someone's Khalif, someone is after them. So basically it's a kingdom. Whether you call someone an Amir, a Sultan, a Haqqan, a Shah, it's all king. So these kings that ruled, you will never see historically any king that displayed their dominance in the same manner that Ma'mun did. Every king displayed their dominance different. And when I say king, I'm talking about any ruler. Even Hitler and Stalin, we'll call them kings. Kings, anyone that ruled. Many times you'll find rulers show their dominance through might, through power, through money, through influence, through propaganda. But Ma'mun used his court to display his authority and his might by using Imam Ali ibn Musa arRedha salawatullahi wa. Even today, when's the last time you heard of a king's court being used like a speaker's corner somewhere? Taban, hasha lil Imam arRedha to be called the speaker's corner, but a place where people talk about their faith. So the Imam was brought into the court of Harun, of Ma'mun, to do what? Ma'mun's court was used, and not, I don't know if anyone ever witnessed when they do a sporting event where they say, all right, we're going to unite the best of the best. Back in 1993, they were going to make a fighting competition called the Ultimate Fighting Championship, where they brought fighters from every different art, but they didn't bring the best of every art. They brought what they could have, salvaged. Whereas with this, he brought the best. The best that you could debate with in Christianity, the best in Judaism, the best for the Magians, the best in terms of scientists, philosophers, these people to sit and stand before Al-Imam Ali ibn Musa arRedha. If you read through Uyun al-Akhbar, you'll even find, in Uyun al-Akhbar, Newton's first law and his second law in Ayun al-Akhbar, in the way that the Imam describes, even though Newton didn't mention these for many years later. You find a lot of things in there. And the amazing thing in Ayun al-Akhbar, which I find unlike any other book, is all his responses, the majority of them are using the Quran. Some of the philosophers, they have the opinion that the Quran is a petty book. They like to read philosophy books, they give them more importance than the Quran. In fact, I remember one guy, one of these philosophers, he said, Al-Quran Kitabul Awam. He said the Quran is the book of the layman. Hasha al-Quran. That you call it the book of the layman. He says we read more, books that have more things that, what do they call it, your acumen, things that work with thinking and all that. The Quran is the book of thinking. The Quran is the ultimate book of thinking. So anyway, so this religious dialogue would come, but Ma'mun's intention wasn't to display his dominance only, was also to bring the Imam apart in front of his followers, to expose him that these Imams don't know everything. If I bring someone, because if you bring someone from out of another place and you bring them with other thoughts, the Imam of the time, if he's not really an Imam, wouldn't know how to have dialogue with them and discuss. So one man came up and said to the Imam, this person was not a Muslim either. He wasn't someone that followed the other sect. But he said, you claim to be Imam. And you claim you are the son of Rasulullah. So he said, Yabna Rasulullah, بأي شيء تصح الإمامة لمدعيها. What is it? In other words, how do we identify an Imam? If you claim to be an Imam, what are the things that you provide us with that show that you are an Imam? When we say Imam, you are the leader. You're someone people are meant to follow. What is it that you can produce for us that displays you like this? What is it that puts you above others? What is it that shows that you're an Imam? Because anyone can come up and say, I'm an Imam. People can claim Imamat. What is it that distinguishes you from other people? The Imam said, بِالنَّصِّ وَالدَّلِيلِ. And that's what we're going to talk about now. بِالنَّصِّ وَالدَّلِيلِ. He mentioned two specific ways to identify the Imam. The first one is an-nas. An-nas literally means the text. An-nas is the text. So in other words, the text meaning the Quran, meaning the hadith, that's one form of you providing evidence that you are the Imam. And then the other one, that's the text, the other one is a dalil, which is basically the assertion or the evidence that we have. Sorry, not the assertion, the attestation, I should say. And the evidence that I have that he is an Imam. So one is the nas, the source, the other one is the attestation. But if we look at the source, we turn to the Quran. The Quran provides us with clear verses. Sometimes people ask, have you ever heard when people go, where does it say imama in the Quran? Have you heard when people say that? Show me in your Quran where it says you must follow an Imam. When I tell him, how many times how many rakat do you pray Maghrib? He says 3. Show me in the Quran where it says to pray Maghrib and it says to pray 3 rakat. Show me in the Quran. Why do you pray? See, if you're not going to understand the Quran, in fact, everything you can hit them with this. I could get up and say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, without saying, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi Muhammad wa Because the Qurani people, the ones that believe in the Quran, they don't say the second Shahadat. Do you know why? They say, because in the Quran says, Shahid Allah, annahu la ilaha illahu. But it doesn't say, wa shahid anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Even though there's a verse that says, Muhammadun Rasulullah. They say, but it doesn't say Shahida. You cannot even entertain grace their words with a response. I won't even waste them. Let them. It's like, you know what it's like? It's like to respond to people like this. It's like standing at a railway station. You know that drunk at the end of the railway platform that's swearing at the trains? It's like sitting with him and giving him a conversation. You're wasting your time talking to someone that puts forth an argument that's absurd as that. It's absurd. The verse in the Qur'ans that prove imamat are many, not one. And this is one of the strongest. Allah Azza wa Jal says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitan ar-rajim, Yawma nad'u kulla unan bi-imamihim. Telling us to remember the day of judgment, when we will call every people or every nation with their imam. It says imam. You wanna laugh? Go read what the translations say. It says imam. They say recorded books. One says deeds. It's like when I was reading once a translation. You know, even though it's a night of mourning, but honestly, some of this stuff is ridiculous. It says قاتلوا الذين كفروا. You know what it says قاتلوا? Fight those who disbelieve. It says fight with planes and tanks and guns. Someone's written that as a translation. This is what it actually says. It's meant to be a translation. And, you know, he's written what he wants for the words. Imam is imam. Why write recorded book? It's not what it said. It says imam. On this day, everyone will be called with their imam. Then it says, to prove it's not a book, it says, فَمَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ. Then they're given their books. بِيَمِينِهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ يَقْرَؤُونَ كِتَابَهُمْ وَلَا يُظْلَمُونَ فَتِيلًا. Now the ones that are given their books of deeds, after they stand with the imam, the ones that receive the book, I'm just explaining the verse even though it's not part of our discussion, their right hand, they will not be dealt even slightly unjustly. Nothing. They will be dealt with mercy. The ones that receive the book in their right hand. So it's talking about the righteous people. But everyone will be called with who? With the imam of their time, their imam. So the hadith says here, when this verse is mentioned, عن أبي جعفر Imam Al-Baqir salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, he says that لما نزلت هذه الآية يوم ندعو كل أناس بإمامهم. He said when this verse was revealed, sent down upon the Prophet, what happened? He says قال المسلمون, the Muslims said, قال المسلمون يا رسول الله أو رسول الله ألست إمام الناس كلهم أجمعين? Are you not the imam of all the people? The Muslims asked. So not only was the verse present, but also the explanation is there. There's so many evidence, there's a lot of evidence in the Quran about imamah. A lot of people just don't want to read it. They just want it to say, they want it to say, as it's like when you ask somebody, what is the conclusive evidence that I can give you that God exists? The staunch atheist will never give you the response to this, you know that. Because if that conclusive evidence is provided, then they have no excuse. Because they don't want to believe, as Richard Dawkins once said, he said, even if someone gives conclusive, I'm paraphrasing obviously, it's not verbatim, but I'll say it verbatim so people, or close to, so people don't say I'm paraphrasing. He was asked if someone gave you conclusive evidence of the existence of God, what would you say? He said, I was actually asked by one of my colleagues this question. He actually says that. He says, Richard, what if one day they prove that God exists? Because they know it is. It is what it is. They wouldn't even entertain the thought if it wasn't true. It's like someone coming asking me and saying, what if Imam Ali was in the Khalifa? I don't even entertain the thought. There's no chance. Don't waste my time. Go play marbles in the field. Don't waste my time with something like that. I wouldn't even entertain the idea. So he says, what is if they prove to you conclusively that God does not exist? So that God exists. You know what he said? He said, I still wouldn't believe in him because I hate him. That was his response. I hate God. Obviously, he believes in God because you can't hate something that doesn't exist. So anyway, they said, the Muslimin said to the Prophet, aren't you the Imam of all the people? فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أنا رسول الله. I am Allah's messenger. إلى الناس أجمعين. I am Allah's messenger to all the people. Everyone, I am the messenger. I'm above all this. He's the greatest creation of God. ولكن سيكون من بعد أئمة على الناس من الله من أهل بيتي. After me there will be imams that will be above the people, upon the people that are from my progeny. So it's different. This imam is not me, it's them. يقومون في الناس فيكذبون ويظلمهم. Now here's a question just before I continue. So if you were living at the time of the Prophet, who was your imam? If you died while the Prophet was alive, who was your imam? Is it Rasulullah? No. Your imam at the time of Rasulullah was Imam Ali alayhi salam. Still an imam then. Because the Prophet said to him, he says, you are the imam in my life and after my life. أنت خليفي في حياتي وبعد موتي. As the hadith says. You are my successor during my life. During my life you succeed me. And after my death. So he's the imam during the time of Rasulullah. So, then he says, the Messenger of Allah, يقومون في الناس فيكذبون ويظلمون عفوا فيكذبون. That they will be with the people, they'll rise with the people, and they will be rejected. The Prophet's already telling you the Imams will be rejected. وَيَظْلِمُهُمْ أَئِمَّةُ الْكُفْرِ. The ones that oppress the Ahl al-Bayt. Look at all the ones that killed the Imams, all the names, the lists. They are A'imma, yes, but what are they? A'immatul Kufr. They are Imams of Kufr, of disbelief. They are the ones that killed them. So everyone that killed the Imam, everyone that killed Ahl al-Bayt, one after the other, is of A'immatul Kufr. وَالضَّلَالِ وَأَشْيَاعُهُمْ. Okay, so it says, they are A'immatul Kufr, وَالضَّلَالِ وَأَشْيَاعُهُمْ, and their followers. So their followers are also what? These people of disbelief, and dalal mean going astray, deviated people. Then he says, فَمَنْ وَالَاهُمْ وَاتَّبَعَهُمْ وَصَدَّقَهُمْ فَهُوَ مِنِّي وَمَعِي وَسَيَلْقَانِي. Look at the words. He says, whoever takes them as their guardians, the Imams. And whoever follows the Imams, وَاتَّبَعَهُمْ وَصَدَّقَهُمْ, whoever believes in the Imams, believes what they say. Then the Prophet says, فَهُوَ مِنِّي. You know what فَهُوَ مِنِّي means? It means they are Muslims. Minni means you're a Muslim. Because when Ibrahim says to Allah Azza wa Jal, he says, فَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي فَمَنْ أَطَاعَنِي. Because Quran, I can't make it. But basically he says, whoever obeys me, فَهُوَ مِنِّي وَمَنْ عَصَانِي فَإِنَّكَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. The beginning of it says, فَهُوَ مِنِّي. That means he's from my religion. Minni meaning from my religion. So فَهُوَ مِنِّي. فَهُوَ مِنِّي, he's from me. وَمَعِي, and he is with me. Not only are you a Muslim, you're with the Prophet. وَسَيَلْقَانِي. So in other words, you will meet with the Prophet. If you follow him, you will meet with the Prophet. Then he says, أَلَا وَمَنْ ظَلَمَهُمْ, and whoever oppresses them. وَكَذَّبَهُمْ, and rejects them. Kadhabahum means denies them. When they say belie them, so it means to reject them. فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي. In other words, they're not Muslims. وَلَا مَعِي, and they're not with me. وَأَنَا مِنْهُ بَرِيء. When you say I am bari of someone, it means I'm innocent of what you do. This is the Prophet, in other words, sallallahu alayhi wa wasallam, has nothing to do with them. So this is from the Nas. The first thing we look is the text. Shows you that an Imam is what's given in the text. Okay? Now, in fact, when it speaks about the A'imma, this is the first thing we need to look at. The text mentions what kind of qualities they have and who they are, the progeny of the Prophet. In other narrations, you will hear where the Imams are mentioned by name by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and by each Imam mentioning who is after them as well, to add to that. The second thing that he mentions, we said, was ad-dalil. Okay. So the first thing is what? Nas, to prove an Imam. The second thing is dalil, which is evidence. So firstly, there's proof that these are Imams by name. That Ali ibn Musa arRedha alayhi salam is an Imam. The second thing is they have evidence. So he says to him, all right, you've said the evidence. What is the evidence? فَالدَّلَالَ, he says, فَالدَّلَالَةُ الْإِمَامِ فِيمَا هِيَ. The man says to the Imam, what is it? The evidence that you mentioned. The Imam says, قال في العلم واستجابة الدعاء. عفوا واستجابة الدعوة. So two things are evidence. You want to know if someone's an Imam? These two things. Number one, their knowledge. This person knows what they're saying. It's not someone that just says something and in many years. One of the weirdest things once that you find, for example, in Latter-day Saints, and it's really the guy that the Joseph Smith in the Mormons, he was a charlatan. He was an absolute liar, and it's been proven he was a liar. The things that he brought out, where he actually got some hieroglyphics and he interpreted them and said this was the story of Abraham being mummified. And the thing is, you know why he got away with it? Because no one knew hieroglyphics except some bloke in Paris. Some guy in Paris, and this guy's in the United States. If I went to the United States now, and some of the southern states will probably get away with it now. So you can imagine 200 years ago. Imagine people in the Trump rally, you could convince them anything. But these people that were around the time of Joseph Smith, he brought out all this evidence that was faulty. And it didn't stand the test of time. Whereas when the Imam said something, it's always stood the test of time. Regardless, you'll hear many things where people try to go against the Imams. And the Imam will say something, and you'll always tell them, what the Imam said is correct. Give it time, and you will see who's wrong and who's correct. And you'll see who's right and who's wrong. So their knowledge always stands the test of time. So the first thing he says is knowledge. This means knowledge that Allah has vested in them, not just any alam. It's ilmun min Allah. You know, sometimes you'll see people that will tell you that I have this many degrees, this many I've studied. Like you could go, for example, and get a degree in a subject. And then you get someone that doesn't have that level. Someone's a doctorate, someone would have their masters, and he's more accomplished than the person with a doctorate in a certain subject. But when it comes to religion specifically, you study and you research, but some people excel above others. I remember one thing my father, Allah have mercy upon him and you're deceased, used to tell me, and I'm not going to mention the ulama, but he said there was two ulama that he would sit and do bahth kharij, study with them. He said one was much more knowledgeable than the other. He said, however, the up-and-coming one, every lesson you'd sit with him was worth 10 lessons with the other one. That was the difference. He said he was a brain, abqari. I mean, he was a genius. Someone that was so intelligent. And taban, they both have passed into Allah's mercy. So I don't want to mention their names in this. But yet they were both ulama, but one's knowledge surpassed the other, whilst the other one was moving up, but he was gifted. And the ilm is nur. يَقْذِفُهُ اللَّهُ فِي قَلْبِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah gives this ilm to people. عَلَّمْنَاهُ مِنْ لَدُنَّ عِلْمًا. Allah Azza wa Jal says about the Khidr. You know when he teaches Musa in Surah Al-Kahf, Allah says we gave him this knowledge. It's from Allah Azza wa Jal. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he mentions the word ilm and where this ilm is, he says, Ana Madinatul ilm. You want to know where knowledge is? I am the city of knowledge. You want knowledge? You come to me. I'm the city of knowledge. But there's a clause in this. He says, وَعَلِيٌّ بَابُهَا. You want to enter the city of knowledge. How do you enter the city of knowledge? You enter from the doorway. Ali alayhi salam is the doorway to the city of knowledge. He's the gateway. In fact, in one hadith, he says, whoever needs the knowledge, then he comes from the doorway or the gateway. In another hadith, he says, whoever doesn't attend from the gateway, summiya sariqa. They're called a thief, which is normal. In your house, someone comes to visit you. We say in Lebanese, دخل من الباب or دخل من الشباك. So either he came through the door, or we say he came through the window. Who comes through the window? We know Santa comes through the chimney, but who comes through the window? A thief. So the thief enters through what? The window. So anyone that enters other than the door, طبعا it was tongue in cheek the Santa call. But if you don't enter from the door, you're a thief. So the Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen is the doorway to the city of knowledge. Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, some hadith say Baqirul Baqir, ilm al-Nabiyyin. He cleaves in half, he dissects the knowledge of the prophets. In another hadith, it says Baqir wa ilm al-awwaleen wal-akhirin. Cleaves the knowledge, dissects the knowledge completely, apart from the awwaleen, the foremost people, all the way to the day of judgment. These were the ulama. And Imam Ali ibn Musa arRedha alayhi salam is called what? Alimu al Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He was the scholar of the family. Does not mean, see, he was the scholar of the family of Rasulullah. When we say he was a scholar or a sage, or when we mention any of these words, or we say, for example, Imam as-Sadiq, it doesn't mean that all the other Imams aren't as truthful. They're all as truthful. But what is the quality that came out? Why was he called the scholar? Imagine so many years before. This is where the hadith come from, before Imam al-Allah. Because when you read the hadith, Imam as-Sadiq is talking to his son, Imam al-Qadim. He says to his son, he says, from you will come the scholar of the Prophet's family. From you. He actually tells him this. So the Imam is telling you something that's to come. And who would know that the court of Ma'mun? Illa ilm, except from knowledge from Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah has given him this knowledge to tell you what's going to happen in the future. And in his debates, as you will see if you read Ayun al-Akhbar. The second thing is very important. Because the second thing really, it determines what's true and what's not. One man came up to one of the ulama and he said to him, I have a letter from Imam al-Mahdi. And he said, take this and give it. This is in Iran. He said, give it to Sayyid Ali Khamenei. He said, it's not an old story, it's a new story. It would have been about 20 years ago. He said, give this letter, it's from Imam Mahdi. So this alim said to him, he said, why can't you give it yourself? You know, why is it you've come through me? This guy wanted to show, so obviously there's other people there. He said, you will know from Imam Mahdi tonight, you will see me in your dream. So alim says, you don't dictate what miracle you're going to show me. I will dictate what miracle. I want you to make my beard young again, because he's got a white beard. Make me young. If you are truly from Imam Mahdi, make me young. So he said the man turned around and walked away. This is what happens. These people that come to claim that they are from the Imam, they have to do things. And that's why when you see the miracles of the prophets, they're from God. They have to do things. They have to show the signs of them being from God. There has to be miracles. So Imam arRedha alayhi salam, at one time there was a massive drought. So the Imam went for a walk, hafi al-qadamain, without any shoes on, with a big group of people, and they prayed Salat al-Istisqa. When they prayed Salat al-Istisqa, which is the prayer, the rain prayer, he told everyone to go home because it's going to rain. So they went home and it began to rain. And that was a miracle. Now, one man came and he ridiculed this. He said maybe he has knowledge in the sky and he knew the rain was going to come. So he wanted to mock it. It's true, people can have knowledge. You know, you see the ants in a rush taking things. There's things that you see happening in your environment that you know rains are coming. So with this, they organized, they bought a magician. And when we say a magician, when I say a magician, and we use the word magician, a lot of people don't understand when we say the word magician. A magician isn't somebody that does something like makes something in your pocket right now disappear. So you pull out your wallet from me this far away and I made it. A magician is someone that does sleight of hand. He tricks you with his it's what we saw, sihr. The word sihr means what? It's deception. It's to deceive somebody. And even the foremost magicians in the world, they tell you that. There's no such thing as Harry Potter magic, you know. There's no one going to Hogwarts and turning people, making people spit out slugs or anything like that. This is real. This is all fake. You know what I mean? This is not real. So anyway, what happens here is they bring this magician and he has this very thin string, you know, one that you can barely see, very light string, and they're sitting on a sufra to eat. And Ma'mun wants to humiliate Imam arRedha. So he ties the string, the magician, I don't know in what way, but he does it in a way where it's attached to the bread. So the loaf of bread is there. Every time Imam arRedha reaches to take the loaf of bread, the magician moves the bread, but it looks like the bread's moving. So everyone looks and they're shocked, and the Imam puts out back his hand, you know, because it's embarrassing. So the Imam puts back his hand, and they start to murmur and giggle. The people begin to laugh because they're making a mockery of the Imam. So then he does it again, and they do the same. They say in the way, Kana al-Imam muttaki'an. There was when we say like a pillow, a bit like, you know, one of those pillows next to you there on the ground. Something like that. It was on the wall where he was sitting, on the sufra, where the banquet was, and on it was etched an image of a lion on the actual pillow. So then the Imam commands that lion in the image to come out. Now you need to understand, it's a cloth. There's not even a real lion there. This isn't magic. This is a sign of God. So this lion comes out and it kills. One narration says it devours him. One narration says it kills him. And then it returns back to the image as if nothing happened. One narration actually says he does not leave a drop of blood there. There's a lot of narrations on this, not only one. It's a lot. This is a narration that the ulama do not even doubt in its integrity. After he does this, Ma'mun begs the Imam to return. Some of the narrations say it was Harun. To return the friend, the magician. So the Imam said, when the staff of Musa became a serpent and devoured everything and returned to being a staff, did it return what it ate? And he says, no. He says, that's it. In other words, your friend has gone to the shadow realm, as they say. Your friend's finished. He's out of here. He doesn't exist anymore. Your friend is in the what? The Adam. He's non-existent. Allahu Akbar. So that was a sign of the miracle. So when the Imam Sahib al-Amr comes out, how will the, people go, when the Imam rises, how will people accept him? They will know. There's not going to be a single human being that has a doubt about the Imam. Did you know that? No one. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam is sitting in a room, and the sun rays are coming through. See the sun coming through the room? One of the companions said, how will we know it's the Imam? He said, see these rays like they're from the sun. You will have no doubt it's the Imam. Sun rays, they just look different. It's the sun. You will have no doubt it's the Imam. People will reject after knowing. So they know it's the Imam, then they reject him after that. I've overstayed my time. Just let me narrate one narration to leave you with, just to entice you all. I love this narration. I have a habit of narrating this narration all the time because I love it. And I can read it over and over and over again. It's a narration that drives me mad when I read it. And it makes me want to leave this place and go to Mashhad. This is on Imam Abu Abdullah al-Sadiq salawatullah alayh. It's a long narration. I'll give you the beat. He says, Man zarahu ilayh, about Imam Ridha, whoever visits him in Tus, where he is buried. Then he says, Arifan bihaqqi, knows he's right. He says, أخذته بيدي يوم القيامة فأدخلته الجنة. He says, I will take him with my hand and take him to paradise. Then he says, وَإِنْ كَانَ مِنْ أَهْلِ الْكَبَائِرِ. He says, even if he's someone that's committed the greater sins, even if this person has committed the greater sins, he says, فَقُلْتُ جُعِلْتُ فِدَاكَ, may I be at your ransom. He says, مَا عَرْفَانْ حَقِّهِ, what is it that I can be of those that knows the haqq of the Imam? قال يعلم أنه إمام مفترض الطاعة شهيد. To know what? That he is an Imam. And it is obligatory to obey him. And that he is a shaheed. You have to accept this. People that rejected the Imams were killed. It's insufficient. You have to know they were oppressed. It's their haqq on you to know. It's their right on you to know that your Imam was oppressed. And that he is your leader and it's obligatory to obey him. It doesn't stop there. Then he says, Man zarahu عارفا بحقه أعطاه الله تعالى له أجر 70,000 شهيد ممن استشهد بين يدي رسول الله على حقيقة. This is the thing that blows your mind. That whoever visits him knowing he's right. Look at this. Allahu Akbar. If you visit him knowing he's right, Allah will give you the reward of 70,000 martyrs that were killed fighting alongside the Messenger of Allah. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Listen to this. This is the important part. This is the part where I cannot understand or explain. That whenever I do anything, the reward is as if he was a shaheed, isn't it? Whoever dies on wudu, falahu ajr shaheed. Whoever dies providing for his family has the reward of a shaheed. Whoever does this has a reward of a shaheed. This we call this majazi. You know what majazi means? It's like the reward. The Imam doesn't say majazi. He says, ala haqiqa, you did fight with Rasulullah. You were killed 70,000 times fighting with Rasulullah, on the side of Rasulullah, for visiting Imam Ali ibn Musa arRedha. One of our maraja, Sayyid Abu Qasim Khu, you know what he says? He says, I am in a balance here. I look at every reward for every Imam and I'm muhtar. He says it's as if to visit Ali ibn Musa arRedha. unlike any other Imam, it's as if you were meeting Rasulullah in person. I cannot understand this. As you look at all the narrations, I cannot fathom this. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to grant us the ziyarah of Ali ibn Musa arRedha. Every moment that we leave this country, Ya Rabbal Alameen, inshallah, Ariban Ajil, and as close as we can possibly get from here to visit the Imam and to grant us his intercession. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa salli Allahumma ala Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. صلى الله عليك ويا مولاي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك المظلومين صلى الله عليك يا غريب توس السلام عليك يا غريب نينوى السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز فوزا عظيما. I am the غريب of truth. But what is the meaning of loneliness? As I sit by my dear son, and I sit by my family, here I lay on my deathbed, yet and he is my There is a meaning for Al-Gharib. Yeah, this meaning is my grandfather Hussein. On the sands of Karbala. Karbala wa Husayna with no armor, sword or kafan, with no servants to help him. Yeah, who was there to aid Hussein? Tonight we come together for Gharib al-Tuz, our beloved Imam arRedha, who was buried away from all the other Imams. The Prophet said, a part of me would be buried in Khurasan. Whoever visits him, knowing his rights, deserves my shafa'ah. أزور اليم من مشهد لمشهد ولو ما حبهم بالله لمشهد يا زوار تأخذوني لمشهد وتوفوني على القبة البهية وتوفوني على القبة البهية. Tonight we want to go to the house of Ali ibn Musa arRedha, sit alongside Muhammad al-Jawad as he has been poisoned by Ma'mun, La'natullah alayh. Our Imam is laying on his deathbed, turning left, turning right, saying, "Ah!" from the pain. The poison has spread through the body of the Imam. The servant of the Imam would be asked to lock all the doors of the house. His servant would say, I was looking at the Imam in this state. The pain was overtaking him. The Imam has no more power. All of a sudden, I saw a young man entering the room. I looked at him and said, who are you, oh young man? And how did you get in here? The young man would reply, the one who brought me from Medina is the one that allowed me to enter the room. Who are you, oh young man? I am Muhammad al-Jawad. I have come to see my father. He would hug his father. He would begin to cry. He would say, Ya Abata, it is very difficult for me to see you in this state. There is a narration that says that the Imam would throw himself onto the sands, onto the floor, and have nothing under him to comfort him. Why is this? Is it because he would be remembering his grandfather Hussein? That very Hussein that laid on the sands of Karbala for 3 days. It is as if we are in the shoes of Imam arRedha as he gives his final words to his son, as he is thinking about his grandfather Hussein. arRedha ana wafati قربت وانا حزين ودي بس والله ازور رحسين يوم الأربعين. قرب يوم الأربعين وانا بفراشي تريح بس نسيت على مسمي وغربتي وقلب الجريح واللي ذابحني يا شيعة مصاب لحسين الذبيح ودي احمل بيدي رايه وامشي قاصد كربلاء حتى ابكي على الذي سابا مثلث حرملا وتم على التربان جثة وبدماه مغسلا ريت امشي الكربلاء يا ريت ما اقعد التوس حتى احضر ويا زينب وادفن اياها الرؤوس. He became very weak. He would begin to lose consciousness and regain consciousness. He would give his final will to his son, Al-Jawad. Then he would finally say his final words to his son. رسول الله يقول إذا حل الموت على المؤمن عرق جبينه سكن أنينه مد يده مد قدمه وفاضت روحه رحم الله من نادى وإماما. The Imam would stretch his arms, he would stretch his legs and leave this world as he is thinking of the Gharib. His soul would leave this world. Let's now all go to Karbala because Imam arRedha supported very well, remembering Imam al-Hussein. We remember that he says إن كنت باكيا لشيء فابكي للحسين. So let's go, brothers and sisters, tonight to Karbala. لا يوم كيومك يا أبا عبد الله. They say that in the life of Imam arRedha, a man would enter his house by the name of Da'bul. He would say to the Imam, "Oh Imam, I have some poetry for you which I haven't read for anyone, and I want you to hear it first." The Imam would ask him to read these lines. Then Da'bul would begin. He would say, "مدارس آيات قلت من تلاوتي ومنزل وحيا مقرفر العثرات فاطم لو خلت الحسين مجدلا وقد مات عطشانا بشط فراتي إذا الليلة تمت الخد فاطمة عنده وأجريت دمع العين في الوجنات فاطم قومي يا ابنة الخير وانذبي نجوم سماوات بأرضي. Oh Fatima, get up and see your Hussein as he lays on the sands in Karbala, and he has passed away thirsty by the Furat. If you saw this, you would beat your face at this scene, and your tears would flow from your face. Oh Fatima, oh daughter of the Prophet, get up and see the stars on the ground for Abu Abdullah. Let's add to this poetry. Oh Fatima, we want to say this poetry to Imam arRedha tonight. Oh Fatima, get up and see the heart of Zainab as she stands from the Tal, calling wa akha wa Husayna, as she turns to the Furat and she says wa akha wa Abbas, as she says wa Qasima wa Akbara wa Muhammada wa Ghawna. The narrations say that she would go down to the body of Abu Abdullah. It is as if she is asking the body of her brother, is it really you? Anta akhi, anta ibn walidi, أنت محمد، أنت ابن محمد المصطفى، أنت ابن علي المرتضى. It is as if Zainab does not recognize her dear brother. She would further call out wa Husayna wa Imama wa Kafila wa Akha. She would throw herself onto the body of her brother, the headless body. They say that all the enemies would even cry to the scene of this. Wa Zainaba. It is as if we are standing in the shoes of Sayyidah Zainab. She looks towards Abbas. What would she be thinking? I stood there confused, all alone. No Abbas to help me, no Hussein. No Abbas to help me, and no Hussein. Indeed, Sayyidah Zainab went through such hardship as they took her from city to city with the prisoners of Karbala. They would take her alongside the spears which had the heads of the Shuhada on them. When they would reach Medina, what would the people be asking? Ya Karbala, راحة وهلي بين الألم عفوني يا كربلاء عندك حلم عن عيلتي وضعوني أم الخدر مهجة حلي فوق الهدل كتفوها حرقوا خباها يا وسف وجيش العدا يلحقوها ضربوها بسيات الهضم وزينبا ضربوها بسيات الهضم فوق الثرى يطيحوها صارت وين بين الزلم يرضى القمر يسبوها يا كربلاء راحة وهلي بين الألم عفوني يا كربلاء عندك حلم عن عيلتي وضعوني إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون على لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين. We all would like to raise our hands in dua by Imam arRedha. Let's all do our dua tonight from Mashhad. Let's all stand in front of that shrine under the dome of Imam Ali ibn Musa arRedha, asking for the shafa'ah of Ali ibn Musa arRedha. For we have cried for him tonight, and we have cried for his grandfather Hussein. Let's all raise our hands and say 10 times, Ya Allah, 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 Ya Allah. يا حميد بحق محمد، يا عالي بحق علي، يا فاتر بحق فاطمة، يا محسن بحق الحسن، ويا قديم الإحسان بحق الحسين، وبحق 9 المعصومين من ذرية الحسين. Tonight we would like to raise our hands in dua, praying for all those needy in the world, all those suffering, all those in need of dua. Let's all recite 5 times ayah amma yujib. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. 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 اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة، وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليك يا صاحب الزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجن. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك، وجعلنا من خير أعوانك وأنصارك والمستشهدين بين يديك. ورحمة الله وبركاته إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة تسبقها بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.